All right, so if you're a founder, you've probably devoured every book on strategy from Silicon Valley, right? But what if the most powerful lessons didn't come from a tech CEO, but from a general in a war that happened 2,000 years ago? In this explainer, we are digging into an ancient conflict to find some truly timeless wisdom on strategy, vision, and the kind of pure grit it takes to build something that actually lasts.
So, seriously, what can some ancient general possibly teach you about raising a seed round or finding product market fit? Well, as it turns out, pretty much everything. We're going to break down his entire career like a business school case study on building something from nothing against absolutely impossible odds.
So our story here kicks off not with a launch, but with something that honestly looks a lot like a modern acqui-hire. You know, when a company gets bought out just for its talent.
Okay, meet Jiang Wei. This is basically his LinkedIn profile. He's this brilliant, young, rising star at the dominant player of his day, the state of Kaowei. Think of them as the Google or the Microsoft of the 3rd century. He's got the skills, he's got the ambition, and he is absolutely on the fast track to the top.
But then, boom, disaster strikes. During a key battle, Jiang Wei gets wrongly accused of treason. He tries to get back to his own city, but the gates are barred. Can you imagine? He's been locked out by his own team? With literally nowhere else to go, he's forced to make a massive pivot. He joins the enemy, the scrappy, mission-driven underdog, Shu Han.
Now his new boss, the leader of Shu Han, was this legendary strategist named Zhuge Liang. We're going to call him the founder. And he immediately saw just how valuable Jiang Wei was. See, this wasn't just accepting some defector, this was a huge strategic talent grab. This quote here, it's basically Zhuge Liang's personal endorsement, the ancient world's version of getting a glowing review from Steve Jobs.
Okay, so let's just make sure we're all on the same page with this analogy. Shu Han is the startup, a small, resource-strapped team with a nearly impossible mission. Kaowei is the massive, entrenched incumbent with all the market share. So basically, Jiang Wei just jumped ship from the safe, cushy corporate giant for the crazy, high-risk but maybe high-reward world of a mission-driven startup.
And his journey at this new startup? It gets very real, very fast. He doesn't just join the mission. Pretty soon, he's forced to inherit the whole thing.
I mean, think about this timeline for a second. Jiang Wei joins the team in 228 AD. Just 6 years later, his mentor, the founder, Zhuge Liang, is dead. All of a sudden, the new guy from the rival company is one of the only people left who truly understands the original vision. The weight of the entire mission just lands squarely on his shoulders.
And what was that vision? Well, it was the company's North Star, restore the Han Dynasty. And this wasn't some simple goal like, let's increase market share by 5%. No. This was a deeply held ideological quest to reunite the entire empire. For a tiny state like Shu Han, this was an audacious, almost insane objective. It's like a garage startup saying it's going to take down a global monopoly.
Now, inheriting a mission is one thing, but actually executing on it, that's a whole different ballgame. And this next phase, man, it is all about that relentless entrepreneurial grind.
For the next 3 decades, Jiang Wei launched 9 major campaigns against the incumbent. And you got to understand, in every single one of these, he was up against this massive resource gap. He was always outmanned, outsupplied, and underfunded. It was the classic David versus Goliath story, just played out over and over and over again for 30 years.
And just like any startup, he was constantly dealing with setbacks. In one campaign, he had to pull back just because he ran out of food, which is basically the ancient version of your cash runway completely drying up. But listen, this is the key takeaway for any founder out there. He never confused a tactical retreat with a strategic failure. The short-term L's never ever made him give up on the long-term vision. He just always went back to raise another round and try again.
So how on earth did he do it? How did he keep that fire burning for 30 years? Well, when historians look back, it's kind of like they're doing a post-mortem, right? They're trying to figure out what made this guy tick. And they point to these core competencies. He was brilliant and brave, fiercely loyal to the mission, had unbelievable talent, and most importantly, he had this absolutely unwavering will. He just refused to quit, even when things looked totally hopeless.
But look, even the toughest leader, the most relentless founder, can face that one final catastrophic failure. And that brings us to the climax of our story, the final, truly audacious bet.
And in 263 AD, it finally happened. The incumbent launched an overwhelming invasion. The Shu Han startup just collapsed. The emperor surrendered. The company was,
For all intents and purposes, acquired and dissolved. The mission was over. It had failed.
But Jiang Wei, he wasn't done, not by a long shot. Even in total, crushing defeat, with his army gone and his state wiped off the map, a true leader makes one last, desperate bet.
He pulled off the ultimate Hail Mary pivot. Here's what he did. He pretended to surrender to the enemy general, and he worked his way in, earning the guy's trust. But his secret goal? To convince that general to rebel, and then, in the middle of all the chaos, kill him and bring the Shu Han startup back from the dead. It was an insane, impossibly risky plan to revive the mission from the inside.
In the end, his plot was discovered right at the last minute and he was killed. But his final words, they weren't about regret. They were about acceptance. My plan failed. It is the will of heaven. He fought for that mission until his very last breath. He lost the war, sure, but his legacy of just insane dedication, that became legendary.
So, what does the story of this supposedly failed general from 2,000 years ago mean for you, sitting here today? It's not about whether you win or lose. It's about how you fight the battle. So let's boil all this down into a practical founder's checklist. Here are the 3 things to take away. First, define your Han Dynasty. What is that huge, almost impossible goal that's going to keep you going when everything is falling apart? Second, prepare for 9 campaigns. You need to understand that this is a long, grueling fight. Are you really mentally ready for that relentless grind? And third, know your final bet. When your back's against the wall and failure looks certain, what's your last audacious move to keep the mission alive?
So I'm going to leave you with this question. Jiang Wei's mission was to restore the Han Dynasty. What's yours? What is that grand, beautiful, audacious vision that makes all the struggle and all the setbacks and all the risk completely worth it? What Han Dynasty are you fighting to restore?